Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is entitled Parent Parks in My Driveway. I own a house a couple houses down from a school, so this was bound to happen eventually. When it's time for the kids to go home, my street is lined bumper to bumper with parents to pick up their kids. The sidewalks are full of families who walk all the way to their cars. I often have to pick up balloons, snack packaging, old homework worksheets, and general garbage that the kids drop. If you're trying to get home around the time school lets out, there's no way you're going to be able to get there before the blockade the parents make is gone. This has been a problem the few years we've lived here. There are two places the kids let out: my street, which is a small cul-de-sac with the school at the top, and a main road that's open all the way down to a baseball park with a wider road to allow street parking and two-way driving. Obviously, if you can't find parking, the tiny residential road isn't the way to go. There are 3 cars at my home: my car, my roommate's car, and my husband's utility van, which he parks on the road to avoid blocking our roommate since she's frequently in and out. Fridays, today, I work from home. So when I finished work, I poked my head out the window to look at my fruit tree I have near my driveway. It's spring. I keep excitedly looking for blooms. And I notice a big white Buick SUV in the middle of my driveway, blocking both spots for my car, which my husband was using since I was home, and my roommate's spot. Honestly, why would you park in somebody's driveway? So, on top of these entitled parents blocking up our small residential road, this person decided to take up a private residence's driveway. I got on the phone with the non-emergency police line and took pictures of the vehicle and plate. Then I got my husband's keys and backed his vehicle up to block the SUV into my driveway, and I waited. 15 minutes later, the mom, bug-eye sunglasses, big old diamonds on her jewelry and wearing athleisure, and she comes around to hop in the driver's seat and smiles and waves at me sitting on my steps. Honestly, she probably thought I was the homeowner's kid or something, because I'm in my early 20s rather than the homeowner. Hi, hope you don't mind. Me. You're trespassing. Why would you park in a private driveway? Sorry, won't do it again, we were just leaving. She was being really dismissive and avoiding eye contact despite taking the sunglasses off. Me. I don't care, you have no right to park on my property, I'm on the phone with the police. It was just for a second, I was just picking up my daughter. Me. It doesn't matter, you don't live here, you don't park here. At this point I realize the non-emergency police aren't going to pick up, so I hang up and decide to duck with her a bit. She got in her SUV and dismissively waved at me, so I got in my vehicle that was blocking her in and waited, pretending to still be on the phone. She starts trying to back out of my driveway because I little bit of a gap between my utility van and my neighbor's car, but it was definitely too small for this Buick. I would like to point out this vehicle has a scuffed front bumper, so I had a feeling she has no special awareness outside of her backup camera. Every time she backed up, I honked. Still pretending to be on the phone. She tried again, I honked again. She looked at my grass and I was about to start recording her in case she tried to go through my front yard, I honked again. If she kept trying to back out and hit my big-ass utility van, she would certainly lose. She gets out of her SUV and comes up to my van. Recognizing she can't do anything without making it far worse for herself, her face was visibly patchy from the distress, and she asked again. Are you really calling the police? Me. Yes, you're illegally parked on my private property, that's illegal. I don't care if it's for 5 seconds, don't ducking do it, you don't live here. Her kid got out of the car, and I decided that was enough, so I waited for her to get back in her SUV and I parked my van back in its rightful spot and let her out. After that I called the school and gave them the license plate number. Nothing will probably come of it, but I don't think she'll park in someone's driveway again anytime soon. I'll take the asshole points because there's a child involved, but you shouldn't put your child in situations like this anyways. The next story is titled, Snobbish Car Salesman Learned You Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover. My friend, Dan, was smart and unconventional. He was a senior electrical engineer at a small company I worked for. This was in the 1970s. While talking about cars and car modifications came up, He started explaining the importance of caster and camber in cars, and why it's so important to get it right. He then laughed and told me, "Did you know the motor vehicle regulations describe the size requirements for a windshield, but you don't actually have to have glass in the frame?" He learned this because he built a street-legal dune buggy from scratch while in high school, and the regulations are crazy complex. Dan was smart. Could fix about anything. He started going to community college to get a degree but quit because he knew more than the teacher. As I said, smart and unconventional. Well, the company we worked for was bought by a bigger company and our stock options because a nice windfall. I bought a new car outright and used the rest as a down payment for a house. Others actually cashed their checks. It was a real rush to have that much cash in your hands once in your life. Dan was one of those. Dan loved cars, and he always wanted to test drive a fancy car. And how could they refuse him with a wad of cash big enough to choke a horse? So, he went to the fancy car dealer that had Jaguars, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, etc. As I said, Dan was unconventional. He was tall and skinny. He had hair down to his shoulders, and a bushy beard. He wore jeans, a light-colored shirt, and a denim jacket. This was before designer jeans became fashionable for men. He was never dirty, but frankly, he looked like he came down from the top of a mountain looking for a good time. He was nearly always in a good mood, and normally had a goofy grin. And Dan loved cars. He had lots of technical questions about the car. So, he showed up and waited for a salesman to approach him. And waited, and waited, and waited. The place wasn't busy at all, but after 30 minutes, he was fed up. He was obviously being purposely ignored. So, he gets an idea for petty revenge. He starts yelling, "I came here to buy a car. And all of you just ignored me. And I was going to pay cash." And he whipped out the huge stack of $100 bills he had, spread them out, and waved it around for all to see. "Well, I'm never coming back to this dealership again. I'll buy my car from another dealer." And he stormed out. He laughed so much when he told us this story. I bet it felt great. The next story is titled, "Parking in the Entrance to My Driveway Backfires." I used to live in a small apartment complex near the state university. It was a big university and parking was scarce. And all too often, some student would park in the entrance to my driveway, blocking me in. I had graduated from college by then and remembered those days of frantically trying to get to class on time. So, at first, I tolerated the parking violations. But the parking violation kept happening over and over again, by different students. I was getting sick of it, sick of being blocked in and unable to drive my car. Student, be more responsible and considerate and give yourself enough time to find a legal parking spot. So, one morning, when I saw that my driveway was blocked yet again by a student who illegally parked there, I called a tow truck and had the damn car removed. Enough is enough. I'm not going to be punished by your lack of planning, college student. Next, I watched as the student who illegally parked in my driveway entrance freaked out upon seeing that her car was gone. And after that, this illegal parking problem greatly improved. I think word got out that blocking our driveway would not be tolerated. Oh, sweet justice. The next story is titled, "My parents' friend keeps contacting me asking me to do free labor even after I have told her no." Multiple times. This all started around the beginning of this year. They are in their 60s, 70s. This woman is very wealthy. They own multiple homes and own multiple store locations for their business. However, one thing they, husband and wife, never seem to understand is finding workers. I have personally always been a hard worker, and while working as a bagger for my first job I would routinely get random people offering odd jobs. Word got around and my mother's friend found out. Since she was a friend, I did not expect to get much of anything from her. I was not even expecting her to pay me. I was simply doing it out the kindness of my heart. They had recently bought a house, and since they are very wealthy, they wanted to change, renovate practically everything in the house within the first week or so. From the yard to the attic to the closets. Everything needed to change for the most part. During these few weeks I would constantly get texts, calls from her asking me when I was available when I'm coming again. I was expecting this to last maybe 2 days. However, the texts, calls still go on to this day. She offered to pay me, but I never asked for a price since I just wanted out. At first, I had brought 3 of my friends, and after the first day they said they would never come back. We got paid $100 for 3 full days of work. Then as I started going alone, she would pay me maybe every 2 to 3 days, and at the time I was working and going to school among other stuff. As time went on, I started to let her know in the most respectful way that I was not interested in working for her anymore. They would work from home, so I would witness a lot of things that went on behind the scenes of their business, as I did do some things for their business as well. She even fired someone right in front of me with only me, her and the person in the room. Another time she called me at around 8 p.m. and told me it was urgent. Someone had come to their home on the security cam, and even for me it was crazy. They had a couple of boxes on their front door. So, she wanted me to move them inside. Some of the boxes were massive and I simply could not move them on my own. I was literally taking to her while she was in another country trying to move these boxes. She then asks why I can't call my friends to come and move the boxes. For one, they live around 30 minutes from me. 2, it was 8 p.m. on a weekday. 3, why could they not just have thought about this before they went on trip? I was like, I'm not calling my friends on a weekday at 8 p.m. to come and move a couple of boxes. Then another time I was meeting her husband for the first time, and they invited me dinner at a restaurant. She complained so much it was crazy. I felt bad for the workers. Another time again, I was helping both her son and daughter move, and I don't understand why they are like this, but she wanted to keep all their stuff. All their garbage, clothes, just random stuff. They had hundreds of books, and her daughter was a scientist, so she had a bunch of lab stuff that needed to be handled with care. It took me around 1 week to empty 2 rooms and drive them around 30 minutes to their other house. So, she would just ignore the fact that I said I can't work anymore and continue to contact me. This went on for a while, but this week was crazy. So, they go on a lot of vacations almost every week. They blow money like it's nothing. They go for 2 days, then they come back. For a couple of weeks, they would call me to bring them to help them pack their bags, then bring them to the airport, and by the evening they would be back. They call me and tell me they need someone to cut their lawns while they are gone. At first, I tell them I don't have a lawnmower, as they were expecting me to buy my own. Then they keep asking me. Then they tell me to literally drive from my house to go to their houses to open their back gate and watch the lawn guy cut the grass. Then I said I can't, and they ignored it. Then they said they would buy me lawnmower to cut grass, and that is where we are at right now. Never in my life have I had someone so entitled in my life. Edit. So, a lot of people are asking why I did not block them. Well, like I said, she is very close in our family, and yes, I get it, you can cut off family members, but I would rather cut them off respectfully. That is just my way of working things out. Although yes, I may have been exploited for my time. I did make some money off of them, as they always had work for me at the end of the day. I was practically able to live off their payments while saving the rest of my income from my jobs and so on. I don't know about you guys, but I'm broke. I could always use the money lol. However, I will make sure to take your advice and either make a clear plan with them or move on with my life. If I had to explain what kind of person she is, well, she is kinda like a Karen. And although I hate that word, it's easy for people to understand it. However, she does not scream or do anything stupid for the most part. It's like talking to a high school principal. They just make you feel dumb. As if you were wrong. But since she knows me, she treats me kinda well, and I am practically excluded from her nonsense behavior for the most part. The next story is titled, I Got Back at the Rude Karen in My Line. I was a grocery checker in the 90s. One day around noon I was working the 10 items or less, cash-only express line that was used by many people who were just grabbing a quick sandwich for lunch. So it was important to keep out people who had carts full of groceries. There was one other regular check stand open across from me that had one person being checked out with a large cart full. I didn't have anyone in my line at the time. Karen pulls up to the other check stand with a heaping cart and notices me standing there. She asks if I can check her out. I tell her, no, I'm sorry, I have to be available for people grabbing lunch. Over the next 30 seconds she just stared at me and then pulled her cart up to my check stand and started putting all of her things on my check stand and says, "You're not doing anything, you can check me out." So I was kind of stuck, so I tried to check her out as fast as I could and didn't say much, and wouldn't you know it, pretty soon I had a line of about 5 people standing there with their sandwiches and cokes glaring at me. Remember, it was a cash lane, so as I am finishing her order, Karen takes out her checkbook and writes a check. Mind you, she didn't start writing it until I was about done. More delay. This was her big mistake. Her address was on the check. So, on my lunch break I got the subscription cards from all the magazines and proceeded to subscribe her to just about every magazine we carried. And I always checked the 2 years, bill me later option. I even signed her up for the Columbia Music Club and I picked the very worst records. Weeks later when she started getting all of the mags and bills for them, there is no way she would connect it to the checker she was rude to. I was probably one in a long string of cashiers she was rude to. Winner me. The last story is titled, I renamed a pothole. So, I was on my way home from driving my kids to school and there was a jerk tailgating me for about 8 miles. He was going to one of the local mountains to ski, which also happens to be where I live. PSA: there are a lot of people who move to the mountains to slow life down and hate dealing with the urban mindset. Slow the duck down and enjoy the beauty around you, not the view of my bumper. I was driving the big truck. The one we use when the snow is super deep or camping way out of the way in the summer. Crappy mileage but will go almost anywhere. So, on the way home there is a pothole. It is big, about 2 feet times 2 feet and almost a foot deep. How do I know this? Have driven the truck through it and man, it was a jolt. Kids and I named it axle breaker. It is also not close to the side of the road, and you have to almost go into oncoming traffic to avoid it. Normally there is an orange cone in front of it but someone else has hit it and it on the snow at the side of the road. So, dude is about 10 feet off my bumper, and I hit that thing at full speed, and he had 0 time to react. Pothole is now called tire shredder. According to my neighbor, guy hit it and it completely shredded the sidewall. Thank you for listening.